Yeah, hello everyone. Is my voice audible, guys? Let me know on the chat. Is my voice audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in last session, we have explored about the functional component, right? I have just introduced you guys with the functional component, and we have seen how to call functions in the new way or in the element format. How to call functions in the element format. So any function whose name starts with uppercase and which returns some kind of user interface, maybe in the form of JSX or React element. Such functions are called functional component. Such functions are called functional component in React. So yesterday we have created some functional components. So let's create in today's session also some functional component. So in today's session, what I want to do, I want to create one page like this. One page. In this web page, I want three sections. I want header section, I want here main section, and I want one footer section. I want one footer section. So this will be our footer section. This will be our main section, and this will be our header section. Header section. I want to create like these three sections: header, main, footer. Okay. So to create like this a page with three sections, what we will do in React is for every section, we will create one component. For every section, we will create one component. So for header section, we will create one component. For main section, we will create one component. And for footer section also, we will create one component. If you want, in one component, you can develop all these three sections. But the problem with one component is in future, to manage all these three sections might become difficult. In future, if you're adding lot of code in header section, lot of code in main section, lot of code in footer section, then adding all the code in one component will become very, very complex. And to manage all our code in one component will be very difficult for us. Plus, if you want to reuse this header section and footer section at any other place, then you will not be able to reuse it. Why? Because in that you have main section also. So what React says, whenever you want to design any kind of user interface, better to divide your user interface into multiple components. Divide your user interface into multiple components. As much as possible, you try to divide your components into small components. So that any component, if you want at any other place, then you will be able to reuse it. So as per React, we have to divide our user interface into small components as much as possible. So right now, as per our requirement, I want to divide this entire page into three sections because we are at very first level. So let's try to divide at very, very basic level. So this entire page I will divide into three sections: header section, main section, footer section. For every section, I want to create one component. So let's try that part first. So I will create here something called home page or home.html something. Now here I will create home.css also. Whatever CSS we want, we will add in the separate CSS file. I will copy this template. I will add in my home.html. Now this home.css file, I will link with my HTML file. How to link? For that, we can use link tag. We can add relation as a style sheet, and href will be the location of your file. Now we have just linked our CSS file with our HTML document. Now this is the template. Now inside this script tag, we have to write the code to create like this page. So what we will do, for each section, we will create one component. So right now we have 3 sections. So I will create section, nothing but function header. I will create one more function, that is main. I will create one more function, that is footer. Now all these functions should return some JSX. So here I will add return some JSX. So like this return statement, I will add in each and every section. Now any function whose name is starting with the uppercase and which returns some JSX or some UI, such functions are called functional component. Such functions are called functional component. Okay, so right now, how many functional component we have created? Right now, how many functional component we have created?
3, sir.
We have created 3 functional component. Now, all this functional component I want to show on my screen. So what I will do here, in every functional component right now, I will just add one h2 and I will say it as a header component. And same h2, I will add in my main also. I will call this as a main component. Same thing I will add in my footer also. I will call this as a footer component. Now all these components we have to give to React DOM. So what we can do, we can take the React DOM dot render. Now here we have to pass the component. Suppose here if I am calling my header component, and if I give that header component to my render function to add it in the root div. Now in this case, if I load this page in my browser, which component will be visible on the screen? All the 3 components will be visible on the screen, or any 2 or any 1?
Only header component will be visible.
The moment I load this, only header component will be visible on the screen. Why? Because React DOM is, you are giving header component to React DOM. You are not giving footer component and main component to the React DOM. So if you are not giving footer and main component to the React DOM, then React DOM cannot load those components inside your DOM. That's why those are not visible. But I want to give all these components to React DOM. So for this, what we can do, we can create one more component, some app component. Okay, whatever name you want to give. In this component, we will try to call all these components like header, main, and footer in whichever sequence we want to call. And then this app component we will give to the React DOM component. So that indirectly React DOM component will load all the components in the DOM. So what we will do here, we will take one return statement, we will add one div, and inside that div, we will call all our components. First, I want to call header component. Then I will call main component. Then I will call footer component. And finally, to the React DOM, we will give our app component. App component. So if you go to the browser and if you refresh, now you will be able to see all the components. In whichever sequence you are calling, in that sequence only components are visible on the screen. Header, main, footer. If I change my sequence, if I call footer before my header, then you will see that footer will visible before header. If I want to reuse my footer one more time, I can reuse my footer one more time. So 2 times it will be visible on the screen. So here we are able to reuse our components as well. So what we did, we just creating our user interface inside one function. Apart from that, nothing. And finally, all these 3 functions we are calling inside one main function, like one parent function. And then this parent function we are giving to the React DOM. React DOM. Yeah, if you want, this div should be in the next line after return, then you have to add brackets. If you are not adding this brackets, then this div should be exactly beside your return statement. Return statement. Okay, here I am using some formatter. The moment I save my file, automatically those brackets are added. Now we want to design some header. So what I will do, here I will add one class equals to, I'm adding here something like header. Now this div I will select using this class name in my CSS file, like this header. I will add here some background color like black. I will add some height, 70 pixel. Color, I will say white. The moment I save it, if I go back here and if I refresh, this is how my header component looks like now. So what I will do, I will just remove this footer component call on the top because I want to keep header on the top of my page. So the moment I go and refresh, my header will be on the top. Now here you are getting some extra space, right? Can you tell me why you are getting this extra space? Why we are getting this extra space? Anybody knows?
Is it bottom space or right side?
This upper space, left side space, right side space. Even at the bottom, you will have a space.
By default, it's covering all the
That space
H2
is
components.
the margin property. This space is because of margin property, but on which element that margin property is applied? Or if I want to remove that space, what I need to do?
Padding.
This is your normal C.
Body margin equal to 0 pixel.
The first step is we have to make body margin as a 0. So by default, your browser will add some margin to your body element. So we want that margin to be 0. We don't want any margin to be applied to the body. So the moment I go back here and if I refresh, this left side, right side space will be removed, but on the top still you will have some space. See, left side, right side space is removed. Till on the top you have some space. Now, do you know why this space you have?
Browser is adding space.
Why?
Browser is adding default space
To which element?
to div element.
Not div element. Div element doesn't have any kind of styles. That's why we use div element for creating a lot of sections. This is because of your heading element. To your heading elements also by default, there will be some margin applied by the browser. So what we can do, we can say that in my document, to the body and to the H2, whatever margin is applied, make that margin as 0. If I refresh, now see that space is removed. Now suppose if you want to remove all the default margin for each and every element that you use in your document, in that case, you can use asterisk here. So asterisk indicates each and every element of your document. So to each and every element, if by default browser is adding any kind of margin, then that margin will be 0. So we don't have any change. Now, if I want, I can increase the height of my header to 90 pixels. It looks like this. Now, this is my header component. Now, this header component, I want exactly in the center here. Exactly in the center of my screen. In vertical direction also, it should be in the center. And in horizontal direction also, it should be in the center. So what I need to do for this? I want
center
what I need to do? Justify.
content.
Yeah, but can I use directly justify content center? Align items center. Do you think it will come? It will not work. To work this properties, justify content and align items, your header section should be a flex container. So first you have to make it as a flex container. The moment you make it as a flex container, then only this properties will have the effect, or else this property will not have any kind of effect. If I go back here, if I refresh, now we have the effect. Okay, so flex concept is very, very, very important. The people who don't have, who don't know flex concept, or the people who forgot the flex concept, revise it, because frequently we will be using flex concept in our React sessions. So revise as soon as possible. So here we got our header component. Okay, you cannot build your project without CSS. Okay, React also requires CSS to create a proper and styled user interface. So focus on CSS part. Keep revising your CSS, HTML, and JavaScript part with React. Now this is the header component. In the same way, what I want to do, I want to assign some class to my main component. I want to select that main component here. And I just want to assign height, something like 400 pixels. And here, right now, I will just add background color. Then we will remove this background color. I will say something like light gray. And if I go back here and if I refresh, I got here main component like this. Then I want to go to the footer component. Here also I want to add a class called footer. Now go and select your footer as well. Now to this footer also what I will do, I will simply add some height like 100 pixel or maybe 150 pixel I will add. And here background color, I will say something like dark red. So if I just go back here and if I refresh, I got here dark red. And color, I will say white. If I go back here, if I say color, it's a white. Now same thing, this main and this footer also I want exactly in the center here. So what we can do here is, we can just create here flex container. In this flex container class, we will add these classes. I will remove from here, I will add here. And now this flex container class, I will assign to all my components. For my header component also I will assign. For my main component also I will assign. And for my footer component also I will assign. So instead of writing these three properties in each and every place, we are just creating a separate class in that we are adding that properties, and this class we are assigning to each and every component, so that the moment you say refresh, all will be in the center.
We can give that flex container at the main app also, right?
No, we cannot give at the main app. At main app, if you give, then this header, main and footer will be considered as a flex items. But we don't want header and footer and main to be a flex container. We want this H2, whatever H2 we have inside those container, those should be a flex items. So if you make app as a flex container, in that case, this div will be considered as a flex items. Then div will come in the center, not H2. We don't want div to come in the H2, we want H to come into the center. Okay, so understand flex concept properly, then you will be able to apply it. So I got header, I got main, I got footer. Just a simple page structure we have created. Now it's your wish what design, what UI you want to create in header, what UI you want to create in main, what UI you want to create in footer. So the idea behind this example is dividing your user interface into multiple components. Multiple components. So instead of writing the code, entire code in one component, we are trying to divide our code into multiple components. This is component 1, component 2, component 3, and component 4. So
Sir,
one
is the component equal to interface? Can we call as interface also, or interface is different?
No, interface is different.
Okay.
So this we are going to call as component. This is our main component now. Now this we can consider as a main component. Why main component? Because inside this component, we are calling all our remaining components. And this component we are giving to our React DOM.render. So any component which you give to React DOM, that component will be considered as a parent component for your entire application. Any component that you give to React DOM, that component will be considered as a parent component for your entire application. Remember this part. So what here, I will just add this note point. Any component which we assign to React DOM, that component is considered as a parent component for entire application, for entire application, for entire application. Until now, here we are using the term. What we call to this part? What we call to this part? So what we are doing here?
It's a main component. We are calling all subcomponents.
So here we are calling header component, we are calling main component, we are calling footer component. So instead of using the term calling, from now you have to use rendering. You have to use a term called rendering. So we say that we are rendering header component, we are rendering main component, we are rendering footer component. So in our React, rendering is nothing but calling. Basically, the meaning of rendering is it
Calling.
calls your component. Internally, it calls your component plus whatever JSX you have used, all those will be converted into React elements. Plus, those will be added in the DOM. So all these three actions are called rendering. Whenever we say rendering means internally all these three actions are performed. You have your function is called. In that function, whatever JSX elements you are using, all those converted to React elements, plus those React elements are added in the DOM. That is what we basically mean rendering. So now instead of just using the term calling, in React world, we use the word rendering. We use the word rendering. So from now, you should not call this as a function. You have to call this as a functional component, or simply you can call it as a component. All these are your JSX elements. These are not your HTML elements. This is component rendering. This is component rendering. So I can say my footer component is rendering. I am rendering header component. I am rendering main component. So from now you have to use word rendering. Okay. So you should not use the term calling. So calling, we will use the term for the normal JavaScript functions. Rendering term we will use for the components. We will use this term for the components. Now, what is the difference between normal JavaScript function and React functional component? What is the difference between normal JavaScript function and React functional component? Did you guys find any kind of differences between them? Can you guys guess?
Yes, sir. The function name should start with uppercase in the React.
So React functional component should always starts its name with uppercase. When it comes to normal JavaScript function,
It
they
start
can
with the
start
uppercase.
names with any case. The normal JavaScript function name, you can start with uppercase or lowercase. You don't have such restrictions, but it is always recommended to follow the camel case when it comes to JavaScript functions. It is just a recommendation, but if you start your normal JavaScript function name with the uppercase, there is no issue with that. Second difference, React functional component will always return JSX. normal JavaScript function can return any type of value. Third, React functional component contains JSX code. Your normal JavaScript function doesn't contains any JSX code. Any JSX code. So we won't add any JSX code in the normal JavaScript functions. We add JSX only in the React functional component. So with the help of these 3 points, you will be able to identify whether that function is normal JavaScript function or it is a React component So in our React, we will create React functional components also, and we will create lot of normal JavaScript functions also, where we will implement some code. So both we will create. So you should be clear with your functional component and with your JavaScript functions. So which are called functional component, which are called JavaScript functions. So when you are using JavaScript functions, you can use the term call. If you are using functional components, then we have to use the term render. Okay. Now what I want to do inside this main section, I want to use card component. Yesterday we have created cards, right? Those cards I want to use here. So what I will do, I will just go to our previous class folder. I will copy this card function file and I will add here. So in last session, we have created card, right? This is the card we have created. So I will copy this component. And I will paste inside our file here. Somewhere I will paste here. Plus, I will copy this CSS. I will paste inside our CSS file. I will copy this function calls. Okay, I will copy this entire function call. I will paste inside the main. Right now, I am pasting inside the main. So for this main, I will just add here class equals to main. Now, if I go back here, let's see how it looks. Here we got this card. Okay, let's remove the height for that main. We will not fix height. So we got something like this. So we have header. In the main, we are displaying all these cards. But right now, if you see inside our main component, we are rendering this create card component in normal JavaScript way. So I don't want this normal JavaScript way. So I will remove this part. I don't want this normal JavaScript way. Okay, can I remove this part right now? Instead of this, I want to call this create card in element format. But if I want to call in element format, what I need to do? This function name should be capital. This function name should be capital. So then only I can call here in the element format. So let's assume that I want to call one time. Now if I go back here and if I refresh, now you will have an issue. What is that issue? We cannot use this parameters now. So what I will do right now, I will just remove this URL. I will remove this part. I will say Raj Verma. I will hard code name here. And if I refresh, I got like this. For this main section, let's add some kind of padding. I will add here 30 pixel. If I refresh, I got here like this padding. Or maybe I will add little bit more, 50 pixel. I got like this. Here we got Raj, Lauren, and one profile button. Now, why all these are coming very close to us? If you see this content, this paragraph and this button are displaying very close to each other. But in last session, I have created this cards, right? There you won't find that effects. Now here see there is a proper space between your H2 element, paragraph and button. But if you see here you don't have any space. Why so? Anybody can guess? Why here we have a proper space between this image, this content, this paragraph, this profile button. But here we don't have that space. So if you
Did
guys
we use
not
display flux?
We removed
no,
margin.
my question is why we are getting why we
Margin,
are not getting space between them?
margin 0 we put in our CSS.
Because we have applied margin 0 for each and every element. So by default to your paragraph element and heading elements, there will be some margin allocated by browser. So we are making that margin 0. That's why there is no space between your heading element and paragraph element. That's why they are displaying close to each other. So what you can do is explicitly, if you want, you can add a space. So I will say that inside my hash card container, whatever H2 I am using, let's see H2 or H3 we are using. H3 we are using. So whatever H3 we are using, to that H3, you just apply margin from top and bottom as 10 pixel and from left right 0 pixel. So let's see now whether we will get space or not. Now see, we did not got space. Card container only, right? Here we have.
It's card.
It's a card, not card container. So if you go back here, you have to say card. And it's a class or it's a class. So here you have to say dot. So if you come back here and if you refresh, now you got some space. In the same way, I want same space for paragraph also. I will add comma p so that you will get same amount of space for paragraph also. Maybe if I want, I can increase the space from top bottom to 15 pixel. So depending upon your requirement, you can increase that space. Now we got that space. Okay, here I am using my CSS selectors, CSS knowledge. Now we got it. Now here we are not able to display that image, right? Why we are not able to display image? Because right now we did not add any URL. So what I want to do, I want to call this card component multiple times. So I want to render this card component multiple times, like one more time. If I render one more time, in that case, what happens? If I refresh, I got one more card, but it came in the downside. Like after this card, another card is displayed. So I want one beside another. So if you want one beside another, what we can do, here we can add that flex container class. Now if I just replace, I got here. So justify content center we have added, right? That is the reason they are coming exactly in the center. Here we have added in the flex container. Justify content center, align item center. Now instead of this, what we can do is we can add this class, card container class we can add. So what I will do here, instead of flex container, I will add card container so that properly those cards will be displayed like this. Now in this both the card, we are displaying same name, Raj Verma, Raj Verma. Why both the names are displayed? Because you have hard coded it. If you see here, this name got hard coded. That's why if you are reusing this card multiple times, then at all the places, the name will be Raj Verma only. But we don't want to hard code this name. We want here a dynamic name. Dynamic name, dynamic URL we want to pass. So how to pass dynamic data to your component if you are calling this in the element format? If you are calling your components in a normal JavaScript way, then you know how to pass parameters and arguments. But if we are calling our components or if we are rendering our components in an element format or in a tag format, then how to pass arguments? How to pass arguments? So anybody knows the answer, how to pass the arguments to your components if you are calling in element format? Anybody knows answer for it? So we can pass arguments to our components if it is called in element format. So how we can pass means, for that we can use our attribute concept. So using attribute concept, we can pass arguments to the components if it is rendered in the element or tag format. Using attribute concept, we can pass the arguments using attribute concept. Attribute concept means, now this is my component rendering. So here I can pass attributes. For example, title. I will say here something like Raj Verma. Now same attribute with different value you have to pass to the next component render call. Here I will say something like Sharma. So now this is attribute. This is attribute in our normal HTML we say. But when it comes to React, to this particular attribute, they have given one special name, and the name of that special name is props. So we call this as a props. In normal HTML, we call it as an attribute, but in React, we call it as a props. We call it as a props. So across multiple component calls, you have to pass same props. The key names should be same. Only values should change. So if I am calling this create card for 2 more times, then these keys will be same across all these component calls. Only these values will change. So here I will say Rohan Jaiswal. Here I will say something like Preeti Reddy. Now this is props, this is props, this is props, this is props. Now we say that create card component takes one props. Create card component is taking one props. Create card component is taking one props. Like this, how many props you can pass? You can pass any number of props. If I want to pass one more prop, I will say space. I will give space. I will pass one more props. I will say here image URL. Some URL I will pass. Now same image URL I can pass to each and every component render. Now here you have to just pass that URL. Now how to receive these props in our components? So when you go to React component, that is create card. Now in this component, how to receive those props? So all those props you will receive in the first parameter of your component. So basically your component will take one parameter. Now to that parameter, whatever name you want to give, you can give. I can give whatever names I want, I can give. Like I can give data. Now this first parameter will be always a object type. It will be always one object. So the first parameter inside your functional component will be always object. And inside this object, your props will be stored. Inside your object, your props will be stored. Now, what are the props you are passing? You are passing title and image URL. So those props will be stored like a properties inside this object. So this is the first props and this is the another props. So all those props will come and store inside this first parameter in the property format. And first parameter will be always a object, So inside this object, we are storing our props. This is one prop, this is another props. That's why people prefer to take the name of this parameter as a props. It is not mandatory, but people prefer to take the name of that parameter as a props. Now here it should be props. Now if I want to access this title, this value, if I want to access, how I will access? Here simply in curly braces, I will say props.name. Here I can say props.image URL. That's it. Now here you should not say name, it should be title because the key name is title. Props.title. Because here key name is title, so we have to use that. So props.title, here props.image URL. Now if you go back here and if I refresh, now see you got Raj Verma, Aishwarya Sharma, Rohan Jaiswal, Preeti Reddy. We got here Preeti Reddy. Now we are not getting here much space because we don't have that space. That's why we are not getting this space. Maybe if I reduce that padding part, then I might get some space. Now here I got some space. So I will just decrease the padding from left, right, from top, bottom, I will add more padding. So we got like this. Now see, all the different names we are able to display. Now we want these names here also. We want that images also. So what we have to do for that? Just we have to pass that image URL here. We have to pass that image URLs here. So I can just copy those image URLs from previous file. I can copy this first image URL and I can paste here. The moment I paste here, save it, go to back browser, refresh, that image should come here. Now, same image, I will take another URL, I will copy and I will paste here. And same image I am pasting here as well. And here I will pass different name. Copy. And here I will paste it. So whatever URL you will paste, that image will be displayed. Now these are the images we are displaying. Now this URLs I am repeating for second and third card. That's why same image is displayed. If you want, we can just display some other image as well. So we can just search for the image. Copy image URL, paste here. We got different image. Now see, our main section is displaying like this. This is header, this is footer. In next session, we will create one heading, one header. One nav bar we will create. Here, instead of showing like this header component, we will try to create one nav bar. And then we will try to design our footer part as well. So that one simple page will be ready, which we have created using React. So here I have introduced one more term for you, that is props. Now, what are props in your React? Now, props are the properties of component. You can say props are the properties of the component. Props are used to pass dynamic data or input data to the components. So why we are using props? We are using props to pass dynamic data or input data to our component. How do we pass dynamic data or input data to our normal JavaScript functions? Using parameter and argument concept. How do we pass dynamic data or input data to the React components, that to functional component or class component? Using the concept props. Apart from this, there is one more use of these props, which we will discuss in coming sessions. Props are used to share the data from parent component to the child component. So right now, you don't worry about this point because we have to discuss this part and we will discuss that in the coming session. So props are used to share the data from parent component to child component. Right now, you remember only these 2 points. Whenever that time will come, I will explain this third point as well. So what are props? In your interviews, they will ask, can you explain me about props in React? Or they can ask you, what are props? So simply you have to say that props are the properties of the component. Basically, your attributes are nothing but property only, property of your HTML element. In the same way, your props are the properties of your component. Now, why we are using these props? We are using these props to pass dynamic data or input data to the component. One more use of the props is to share the data from parent component to child component. So this point right now you want to understand. This we will discuss later on. This point we will discuss later on. So here we see, using these props only we are able to pass the dynamic data. So your component note point, you have to remember here one more. Functional component, first parameter, functional components, first parameter will be always object. And this object stores props. This object stores props, or you can say this object contains set of props as a properties. So your functional component's first parameter will be always a object. It will be always a object. Will be always a object. And in that object, props are stored. Okay. So this point you have to remember. So a lot of people in interviews, they say that props are object. That is completely wrong answer. Props are not objects. Okay, props are the properties of the component which are stored in one object. Okay, so this was the last demo session, guys. So finally, it is confirmed from the management. Today was the last demo session. So from tomorrow, don't join with this link. Whatever new link will be shared with you, or whatever link will be updated in your portal, from that link only you have to join the session. So if people are joining from this link directly, then from tomorrow, this link is not going to work. It is completely finalized now. Okay. Yeah, that's all, guys, from my end. If you have any doubts, let me know. If you don't have any doubts, yeah, you guys can drop. I will push this paint file and this code on our GitHub, so you guys can access our entire code from the GitHub.
So can I get the GitHub link, please?
Yeah, sure. So this is your React syllabus and GitHub link. So till right now, you might be getting recording on your mail, but once they create your account on their portal, then all the recordings will be available. Okay. So guys, once our session is completed, So management might take 24 hours to upload the recording. Okay, so 24 hours is the maximum time. So within 24 hours, they will update the recording. So if you take any session, once the session is done, from there, it will take 24 hours maximum to update the recording. So within 24 hours, they will update it. So in case if they are not updating within 24 hours, then you guys can raise the issue. Just you can connect with the admin, or once you guys are added in the WhatsApp group, you guys can just ping on that WhatsApp group that recording is not updated. Okay, so they will just check it. If there is any issue, they will let you know.
Sir, actually, who is the concerned person to clear the doubts in these sessions?
Who is checking?
Say this Chandrasekhar Sursati.
Mm-hmm.
If we have any doubts and clarification in the middle of the practice, to whom I need
So
to
once the WhatsApp is created, then you can post your doubts or your any kind of issues on that WhatsApp.
Previously, I'm the Airtel joined with the Ashok actually. Previously, I have faced a number of issues with the Docker and Kubernetes.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm discussing with you regarding this.
You have taken, like I didn't get you. Your voice is not clear.
Previously, I have taken with Docker and Kubernetes batch.
Okay.
In
Mm-hmm.
the middle of that, I have faced some issues.
Okay.
So, again, I need to contact if I can face any issue in the middle of this.
So here I will be added in the WhatsApp group. So if you have any kind of doubts or if you get any kind of issues while practicing, you can simply ping on that, or you can directly tag me on that WhatsApp group. So in that
Okay.
WhatsApp group, I will be present, management people will be present, and all our friends will be there. Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah. So we will be helping each other whenever we have any kind of doubts.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, guys. So let's meet tomorrow with Ulink. So tomorrow it's mandatory that they are going to change. Okay. So we have done with 7 sessions, right? So as I have said, minimum 5 sessions, maximum 7 sessions will be your demo sessions. Yeah, guys, you can drop. Let's meet tomorrow.
Sir, could you please add the yesterday's and today's sessions?
Your voice is not audible.
Yesterday's and today's session, GitHub, you can add the document.
Yes, I will update this GitHub, okay?
Thank you.
So within 5 minutes, you should be able to see all the updates on GitHub.